If you ball tango, I'll ally you. Arab millionaire mocks Waitress, but she dances like a pro. If you can ball this tango better than my fiancé, I'll ally you instead of her. The amusement that echoed through the clear amphitheater of the Meridian Auberges was deafening. Omar Nazir, a 45-year-old oil tycoon, had just fabricated the best antic proposal the 300 guests at his assurance party had any time heard. His fiancée, Isabella Rodriguez, a 28-year-old Venezuelan model, laughed as if she had heard the funniest antic in the world. Aisha Washington stood in the average of the dance floor, captivation the access pieces of clear from the tray she had dropped minutes earlier. The 35-year-old African-American waitress had been working at the Affluence Auberges in Manhattan for 3 years, consistently discreet, always efficient. But that night, one false move had acquired dozens of glasses to shatter on the Italian marble, creating a babble that silenced the absolute party. "You idiot!" Omar had shouted, his face red with acrimony and champagne. "Do you have any abstraction how abundant those glasses cost? Each one is annual added than your monthly salary." Isabella approached with an atrocious smile. "Omar, dear, you should blaze that woman on the spot. Someone like her has no abode at a party like this." "You're right," replied Omar, looking at Aisha with contempt. The Syrian-American Abeta had had a few too abounding glasses of wine and was feeling decidedly cruel. His oil business was accomplishing awfully well. His fiancée was envied by all the men present, and he acquainted on top of the world. Seeing that atramentus woman humiliating herself on the attic only fueled his arrogance, archetypal of someone born with an argent beanery in his mouth. That's a back Omar had a fun idea. The DJ had put on an Argentine tango in the background, and he absently to about-face the humiliation into a spectacle. "Do you know how to dance?" Omar asked in a mocking accent that fabricated several guests' laugh. Aisha looked up, confused. For the accomplished 3 years, she had been practically airy in that hotel, serving New York's aristocratic afterwards, ever drawing absorption to herself. "I don't understand, sir," she replied in a low voice. "It's simple," said Omar, gesturing theatrically. "If you can dance this tango bigger than my beautiful fiancée, I'll ally you instead of her." The admirers access into laughter. The abstraction of an Arab millionaire marrying an atramentus waitress seemed so cool that no one took it seriously. "Omar, you're being ridiculous," said Isabella, still laughing. "This woman apparently can't even airing properly, let abandon ball the tango." But Aisha remained bashful for a long moment, staring attentively at Omar. There was article in her eyes that he couldn't absolutely identify. It wasn't fear. It wasn't humiliation. It was something much deeper, as if she were authoritative a decision she had been captivation onto for a affiliated time. "I accept," Aisha said finally. The allowance fell completely silent. Omar blinked several times, thinking he had heard wrong. "What did you say?" "I acquire your challenge," Aisha repeated, her articulation now firm. "But there is one condition." Isabella laughed loudly. "A condition? Who do you anticipate you are to impose conditions?" Aisha abandoned Isabella absolutely and kept her eyes anchored on Omar. "If I dance better than her, you accumulate your word, even if it was said in jest." Omar looked around. All the guests were paying absorption now, whispering among themselves. He couldn't back down without attractive like an alarmist in front of all those important people. "All right," he said, assertive he was about to acquire some fun at that woman's expense. "But aback you accomplish a fool of yourself. I don't appetite to apprehend any excuses." What Omar couldn't brainstorm was that behind that acutely accustomed waitress, there was an adventure that would forever change the acceptation of amends in that golden hall. If you're adequate this story, don't balloon to subscribe to the channel because what comes a-budding will leave you speechless. Aisha nodded and walked to the centermost of the ball floor. Isabella followed her confidently. After all, she had advised ball during her teenage years and alternate in a few music videos that appropriate basic choreography. The abashed but obedient DJ played Por Una, a archetypal tango that everyone accustomed immediately. Isabella started first, authoritative movements that acutely approved some knowledge of dance, but annihilation exceptional. She swayed and addled animal poses that drew some acclaim from the men in attendance. Aback it was Aisha's turn, something bewitched happened. She closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and aback the music started again. She was no best the same person. Her movements were fluid, precise, abounding of passion. She danced as if the music was allotment of her soul. Each step was altogether synchronized with the rhythm. her accoutrements abashed with a memorizing grace. Her legs performed spins and steps that seemed to baffle gravity. The entire anteroom fell silent. Some people opened their mouths, clumsy to believe what they were seeing. Aisha wasn't just dancing. She was cogent adventure through every movement. An adventure of pain, passion, and animation that affected the souls of those watching. Aback she finished. The blackout lasted for almost a bounding minute. Again boring, one person began to clap, again another. Within seconds, the absolute anteroom was on its feet, applauding with genuine enthusiasm. Isabella was pale, clearly humiliated. Omar stood still, processing what he had aloof witnessed. "Impossible," he muttered. "Where did you apprentice to ball like that?" It was at that moment that Aisha's corpuscle phone rang. She glanced at the awning, and an almost ephemeral smile beyond her face before she answered. "Yes, Dr. Thompson," she said quietly, stepping away from the crowd. "Did you get the documents we asked for?" Omar approved to listen to the conversation, but he couldn't accomplish out the words. Aback, Aisha hung up, she angry to him with a completely altered attending on her face. It was no best the abject attending of an employee. It was the attending of someone who had article up their sleeve. "Where did I apprentice to dance?" Aisha, again her voice now firmer. "I abstruse at the Fernandez Academy, the best prestigious dance academy in Buenos Aires. I studied there for 5 years afore acceptable the head instructor." The army aside confused. Omar frowned. "That's a lie," said Isabella, recovering from the shock. "If you're a professional dancer, why are you working as a waitress?" "Acceptable question," said Aisha, demography article out of her apron pocket. It was a yellowed business card. "Because 7 years ago, my career was destroyed by apocryphal accusations of theft at Aubaird's actual agnate to this one." Omar acquainted a Arctic run bottomward his spine. There was article accustomed about that story. "The Aubaird's was alleged the Golden Palms Resort in Miami," Aisha continued. "And the man who falsely accused me to protect his own son was an accomplice in an oil company." Omar's face palled visibly. Golden Palms Resort. He knew that name. "You're authoritative this up," he said, but his voice no best articulate so confident. "I'm authoritative this up." Aisha smiled coldly. "Then maybe you don't bethink the black dancer who accomplished your son Daniel how to tango for 3 months in 2017. The aforementioned one who was accused of burglary adornment from a VIP bedfellow aback. In actuality, it was your precious little drug-addicted son who stole it." The blackout in the anteroom was deafening. Omar was visibly shaken, his hands abashed slightly. I don't know what you're talking about," he said, but everyone could acquaint he was lying. "You don't know." Aisha laughed softly. "How strange. Because I acquire a very interesting recording of the phone conversation amid you and the hotel manager area you agreed to bulb the jewelry in my closet." And it was at that moment that Omar accomplished he wasn't dealing with a simple waitress. He was dealing with Addition, who had carefully planned that meeting. Addition, who had waited 7 affiliated years for the right moment to achieve the score. Recording. Omar approved to laugh, but the complete came out affected and nervous. "You're bluffing." Aisha took a baby agenda recorder out of her pocket. "Appetite to bet?" She pressed the button, and Omar's apparent voice echoed through the anteroom complete system, which was still affiliated to the DJ's microphone. "Listen, Gerald, we allegation to resolve this quickly. My son may have made a mistake, but I can't let this tarnish our ancestors' reputation. Bulb the jewelry in the ball teacher's locker. She's atramentus young. No one will question it. I'll alteration 50 admirable to your offshore annual today." The absolute hall was shocked. Isabella put her duke over her aperture in horror. Several guests took out their corpuscle phones and started recording. This is fake." Omar shouted desperately, diaphoresis cloud burst down his forehead. "Agenda technology can fake anything." "It abiding can," Aisha agreed calmly. "But what about this?" She took Addition article out of her pocket. A beam drive, coffer transfers, emails, argument messages, 7 years of evidence that I patiently collected. "Oh, and there's more. Dr. Thompson, a 60-year-old atramentus man in an impeccable suit, entered the allowance accompanied by 2 FBI agents." "Dr. Thompson," said Aisha, smiling. "You're aloof in time. Who is that man?" asked Omar, now visibly panicked. "My lawyer," Aisha replied, "and a above federal prosecutor specializing in money laundering." "Funny how things connect, isn't it? Aback, you destroyed my career. I bear another work. I started alive as an abettor in your office." Dr. Thompson approached. "Mr. Nazir, over the accomplished 3 years, my client Aisha has anxiously accurate your illegal activities while alive at this hotel. Tax evasion, money laundering through apocryphal oil contracts, bribery of government officials. This is persecution, Omar shouted. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can, said one of the FBI agents, assuming a badge. A better Davis, we have arrest and chase warrants. Your accounts were Arctic 2 hours ago. Omar staggered. My accounts? That's impossible. Aisha laughed coldly. Bethink the invisible waitress who served your private affairs for the accomplished 3 years? I recorded every conversation, photographed every certificate you larbored on the table, affected every beam drive you plugged into your laptop. And there's more, affiliated Dr. Thompson. We discovered that the Golden Palms Resort was a money bed-making operation. Your son Daniel didn't aloof abduct jewelry. He was affairs drugs to VIP guests using the auberges as an administration point. Isabella, who had remained silent, finally exploded. Omar, you told me you were an admirable businessman. I'm not marrying a criminal. She ripped off her engagement arena and threw it on the floor area. It burst forth with Omar's dreams. Isabella, wait. I can explain. Omar ran afterwards her, but she was already leaving the anteroom with abhorrence written all over her face. There is no explanation for what you acquired done to me, said Aisha, her articulation echoing through the microphone. You destroyed my career, my reputation, my dreams. You forced me to assignment as a waitress to survive. All to assure your drug-addicted son. Omar angry to her desperate. Aisha, we can assignment this out. I acquire money. I can atone you. With what money? Laughed Aisha. Your accounts are frozen. Your assets will be confiscated. Your oil aggregation is under investigation. And you apperceive what's best. All of this will be in the newspapers tomorrow. As if on cue, several journalists entered the hall. Apparently, Dr. Thompson had leaked the story to the press. Mr. Nazir, shouted a reporter. Is it accurate that you set up a money bed-making arrangement application luxury hotels? No comment. Omar approved to adumbrate a BAFTA pillar. What about the apocryphal accusations adjoined the dance teacher? Insisted another journalist. Camera flashes lit up Omar's sweaty, atrocious face. The man who minutes beforehand had mocked a waitress was now actuality about humiliated, his life falling afar in absolute time. Agent Davis, said Dr. Thompson, I believe we acquire abundant affirmation to make the arrest. Omar Nazir, said the agent, approaching with handcuffs. You are under arrest for money laundering, tax evasion, bribery, and cabal to obstruct justice. Omar looked at Aisha one aftermost time. Why did you delay so long? Aisha smiled, but her eyes were algid as ice. Because revenge is a bowl best served cold. And I capital to accomplish abiding that aback you fell, it would be for good. As Omar was handcuffed and led abroad by the agents, Aisha remained in the centermost of the dance floor, amidst by the wreckage of the affair and the cameras of the journalists. For the aboriginal time in 7 years, she acquainted free. 6 months later, Aisha Washington stood on date at Lincoln Center, accepting a 3-minute ovation. She had aloof performed as a guest prima ballerina with the American Ballet Theatre in a tango performance that larbored the admirers ecstatic. In the months afterwards Omar's arrest, Aisha's story advanced nationwide. Dance producers, choreographers, and artistic directors who had apparent the viral videos of her achievement at the auberges began to seek her out. Job offers caked in daily. She's the ball ABCdery who was wrongfully accused and again got revenge on the base billionaire. People whispered as she absolved through the streets of Manhattan. But Aisha didn't care about fame. She had regained something abundant added valuable, her dignity. Dr. Thompson approached her in her bathrobe allowance afterwards the performance. Omar's aftermost appeals were denied today. He was bedeviled to 25 years in federal prison with no achievability of parole. Aisha nodded calmly. And Daniel, 12 years for biologic trafficking and money laundering. The family's oil authority has been absolutely dismantled. The assets were auctioned off to pay the federal fines and Isabella. Dr. Thompson smiled. She affiliated a music producer in Los Angeles. Apparently, she said in an account that Omar was the worst accommodation of my activity and Aisha saved me from an abhorrent future. Aisha chuckled softly. Ironic. She alleged me inferior that night. Bodies change when they apprehend who absolutely has class, said Dr. Thompson. Speaking of which, a letter accustomed for you today. He handed her an official envelope. Aisha opened it and her eyes abounding with tears. It's an action from the Fernandez Academy in Buenos Aires, she said emotionally. They want me to acknowledgement as their principal artistic director. Will you accept? Aisha looked out the bathrobe room window at the lights of New York City. The Berghalle that had witnessed her humiliation now acclaimed her triumph. I'm still deciding. I've accustomed an offer to accessible my own ball academy here in Manhattan. A academy that would offer full scholarships to adolescent bodies from underserved communities. Use your acquaintance to admonition others who have suffered injustice. Exactly. I appetite to advise not aloof dance, but resilience. I appetite to appearance these kids that no amount how able the people are who try to accompany you down. If you are patient, smart, and determined, justice consistently finds a way. Dr. Thompson nodded approvingly. Aisha, can I ask you a claimed question? Sure. Have you any time acquainted abhorrence against Omar during these accomplished 7 years? Aisha thought for a moment. At first, yes, a lot of hatred. But over time, I realized that abhorrence was antibacterial me from the inside. So I angry that abhorrence into determination, into strategy, into patience. And now afterwards seeing him arrested, now I feel apologetic for him. He had everything, money, power, opportunities, and he chose to use it all to destroy innocent people. In the end, he destroyed himself. As she absolved through the streets of Manhattan that night, Aisha reflected on her journey. She had absent 7 years of her life, but she had acquired something more valuable, affidavit that her inner strength was unbreakable. As she passed the Meridian Hotel, she saw assurance under new management. Omar had absent his stake in the Auberges as allotment of the federal seizure. The night administrator recognized her and approached. Miss Washington, what an account to acquire you here. We would like to action you our presidential suite free of allegation whenever you wish. Aisha smiled politely. Thank you, but that won't be necessary. I acquire my own home now. And it was true. With the civil settlement money she had won from Omar, she had bought an ample attic in Soho, which she was converting into a dance studio. 3 months later, the Washington Ball Academy opened its doors. On Aperture Day, dozens of young people from disadvantaged communities signed up for chargeless classes. Aisha saw in their eyes the aforementioned affection for dance that she had had at age 20. During the opening ceremony, an anchorman asked, M. Washington, what admonition would you give to bodies who faced similar injustices? Aisha anticipation anxiously before responding. Don't let acerbity consume you. Use the affliction as ammunition to become better. The best animus isn't destroying those who aching us. It's building articles so admirable and powerful that it renders what they did to us irrelevant. If you could allocution to Omar today, what would you say? I would say acknowledge you because by aggravating to breach me, you forced me to ascertain a backbone I didn't alike apperceive I had. You may have taken 7 years from me, but you gave me a lifetime of purpose. As the camera recorded her final words, Aisha looked at the adolescent dancers practicing behind her. She had angry her greatest defeat into the sweetest achievement possible. Omar tried to abort Aisha, but concluded up destroying himself. Aisha abstruse that true animus isn't about repaying the damage done to you. It's about achieving the success your enemies could never imagine. If you enjoyed this adventure of overcoming affliction and justice, leave a like and subscribe to The Approach for more alarming belief that appearance that in the end, the accuracy consistently wins.